Hey everyone, it's Brendan. Welcome back to 300. Today we are reviewing The Tree of Life by Terrence Malick. Sorry, was that jarring? You just don't get it. This is art. You see, you're just not used to this structure of a type of introduction for a movie review. So, you don't get it. You don't get it. It's art. You don't get it. This is art. You see, every shot I'm showing you has a meaning behind it. Yeah, that's basically what this movie was. I'm not sure what the numbers are going to have to say about this film. I don't think they can say anything about this film. But let's give it a shot. Sorry if I seemed a little harsh in the introduction. It's just that that's the discussion I had in my mind after watching the film. I'll get to the summary in a moment, but I just want to talk about there's a fine line between leaving things open for interpretation and then throwing paint on a canvas and calling that art. But this movie, in the end, I feel like it did have an intention with the direction. Everything was done in a pretty meaningful way, but for people who aren't used to this, I don't think anybody is used to this type of movie. It might not sit with them. I would also like to put this in context. This is my brother Danny's favorite movie of all time, and he told me to watch it and review it. Now, this movie was not on any of the streaming services I had, so I had to go to the library to get it on DVD, and me and my mom watched it in the living room together. And it was funny, because she was probably on the opposite side of the spectrum to my brother Danny's enjoyment of this movie. I feel like my reaction to the movie was probably somewhere in the middle. I can see how this movie is a deep reflection, but I could also see this is not a movie. Alright, and if you haven't seen the movie, you're probably very confused about what I'm talking about, so I'll get into the summary. In basic terms, it's a movie about a family dealing with loss and how they're grieving and reflecting on this loss. And they're also reflecting on the past and their childhood. And the characters ask themselves these existential questions about God, and they're just searching for answers. This movie also does a masterful job of exploring childhood from a raw memory point of view montage. And maybe this whole movie can be described as a montage, but I'd more classify this movie as like a meditation, because while you're watching this movie, you need to be asking yourself these questions as well. And the movie gives you time to think whilst showing these beautiful images on the screen. Let me try to recall the order of this film. I think we're shown different points of view of the father, the mother, and the brother receiving the phone call of the news of this death. And then I think we get a little bit of a childhood, maybe. But then we just go into space. We see, presumably, the Big Bang, all the planets, the beginning of time, this grand cosmic scale. We see these beautiful images of the cosmos. Then we start progressing in time to Earth. And then at this point in the movie, we are introduced to the main character, the morally conflicted dinosaur, who, I think he deserves an Oscar for what he did here. Basically, the dinosaur had more screen time so far than any of the human characters. I am probably dead serious. I literally thought we were going to follow the dinosaur for the rest of the movie, which I kind of wish we did. Jokes aside, we have to leave behind our dinosaur friend and move further in time, but we're also moving smaller. Now we're looking at Sal's life. When you're watching this, you do realize, oh, yeah, that's the point this movie's trying to tell us. If this whole frame was the entire universe, which is impossible because it might be infinite, we would probably be right here, smaller. And I'm sure you've thought about this, and if you haven't, then, maybe you should think about it. Or maybe not. It might scare you, but it shouldn't, because this movie explores themes of Catholicism. And as a Catholic, I appreciated how this movie is pretty much my brother Danny says it best.
There's that element of it, like I sent you in that video. It's sort of like Job, the book of Job, and St. Augustine's Confessions, if those were turned into an artistic movie, so to speak, because the mother whose son dies and she has to deal with that and go through all these trials and tribulations in her life, and so does the father, and you sort of get to see that. And then, the father losing his job and just a dysfunctional element in the family between the husband and wife.
I've read the book of Job twice with the Bible in Your podcast. I have not read St. Augustine's letters, but for a film to take writings like those and somehow artistically portray them on the screen is pretty impressive, but boring. Before I go into the rest of the movie, the sequence of the planets and just the 15-minute sequence, and the shots of the planets, like the little clips, those could have just been like still frames on Instagram that are posted daily with somebody captioning them, the destination is the journey, or the journey is the destination. And then the rest of the movie gives us this montage of childhood whilst going into deeper moments. And it is very much like Memory, how you just kind of remember these random moments from your childhood. And maybe some moments stick out and play longer for some reason. And those are probably transformative moments, like moments where the father and mother are fighting.
Like if you interpret a lot of the movie through the lens of memory as opposed to just like random flashbacks. You're not very old right now, but as you get older, you can sort of like think back to those elements of your childhood. That oftentimes is how memory works. Just like random moments that you remember with these people. It's not like a complete 20 plus year story from beginning to end movie. It's like these random significant or insignificant moments throughout your adolescence that you remember with these people.
And how the little boy, I think Jack is the little boy character. I think that's the main character, maybe, or the dinosaur. And we see him kind of be like corrupted a little bit. As a kid, you do bad things, and we're seeing like, oh, yeah, he's doing some bad things right now. He's hanging out with this gang of kids in the neighborhood. They're throwing rocks through windows, and they have guns. I mean, I can't relate to that in my childhood, but I don't know if you can. We see his first sexual sin going through the wardrobe of this stranger. He was committing a B&E, bacon and eggs, breaking and entering.
I'm doing a B&E, and if you're looking at me going, Dane, what is that, bacon and eggs? No. Although I could always do bacon and eggs. That's fucking delicious. Who doesn't want to do a bacon and egg special? I'm talking about a B&E, breaking and entering, and I wanted to do one. Yes. Fans of crime.
We also stop and see the moment where he shoots his brother in the finger with the BB gun, and then he consoles his brother and he says he's sorry. It's kind of like the reconciliation when we sin and we have to go to God and say we're sorry. Very strong themes of Catholicism in here. The childhood memory portion ends when they move from their house because their father got a new job. But then the film ends with this bizarre moment where Jack, who's grown up, still dealing with the loss of his brother, he's walking in the desert. His younger self is leading him through a doorway. All these people are there on a beach. They're all walking, his family's there. I kind of saw this as the second coming or the resurrection of everybody, or at least Malik's interpretation of it. I didn't think this was the afterlife. This doesn't feel like it'd be the afterlife. Sorry if that summary was too long, but this movie was a little long and it was a little boring, but it's definitely an important film to talk about. And I was so inspired by the style of this film that I made my own Terrence Malick film. Check it out. Why? Who? What? When? How? Where are you? Who are you talking to? I'm doing a voiceover. Shh. I can hear you, but I won't. Some look for trouble, while others don't. There's 1,000 reasons I should go about my day and ignore your whispers, which I wish would go away. You guys are so privileged. My crotch. Shh, shut up. Come on, son. Show me what you got. Come on. Hit me. Hit me. Yeah. Come on. Hit me, son. Come on. Come on. Okay, so I don't really think this is a movie. It does not follow a 3-act structure. It doesn't follow my grading system that well. At first, I thought there was, for the plot, I initially put not available. Genre, I put not available. But this is presenting itself as a movie, so I'm going to treat it like a movie / film. I was kind of surprised by the results. The narrative analysis gets an 8.7 out of 10. Now, I know what you're saying. There's not a plot. There is a plot. In simplest form, the plot is about this family dealing and reflecting on the death of this family member whilst asking themselves these existential questions about life in their search for God, whilst also reflecting on the grand scale of the universe and the little big moments of life and who we as humans are and how we fit into it. And when it's put like that, it's a pretty epic story. I thought the characters were really good because they were just really, they felt real, they felt raw. I might say this again, but it felt nostalgic. I kind of related to them in a weird way. And this might shock you. For the first time, I'm giving a category a 10 out of 10. And that's for the themes. Because this movie relies on you to meditate on these themes of why we suffer, our search for God, nature versus grace, sin, reconciliation, and the brevity of our lives. And the magnitude of stuff this movie was able to cover in such an artistic way is why this section scores so high at an 8.7 out of 10. Now for the formal analysis, it gets an 8.5 out of 10. Now, nothing in this section got a 10, but they were near 10s for mostly everything. The editing was tough because it either could have got a 1 or a 10. A 1 because the movie was so jarring. You're going from here to here, like, what the heck's going on? We're seeing planets, a dinosaur, baby being born, people learning about a death. We're cells, and then we're seeing this childhood in this montage, and then, like, we slow down. It's like, what's going on? For the average viewer, this editing, it's slow, it's chaotic, it's not that good, but there's intention behind it because it is like playing through your own memory of your childhood whilst taking these breaks to reflect on the larger scale. So I kind of wanted to go in the middle for this film, but I leaned a bit higher because this film was birthed through the editing. And another thing that carries us through this film is the sound, the sounds of nature. We'll get to the music a little later, but the through line of this movie through all these cuts is the audio. So that scored very high. And now the cinematography. Terrence Malick has a very distinct style where I have to take into account the spontaneity in it. Since I know what he's doing, he's just going on set and he's getting these raw moments with the camera right there. Since these shots aren't set up or planned, I have to kind of penalize him for that. But what he gets in every shot of this film is amazing. You could probably pick any shot still frame in this movie, in this film, and it will have something to say. I don't think any scene in this film had just things still. Everything was in motion. The planets, the people, the wind was blowing, the birds were flying. The camera was moving. One of the best ways I could put it is the shots were beautiful but incomprehensible. Even though I know the shots are saying something, I myself personally wasn't able to find that much, but I know it's there. Maybe I need to go a little deeper. This is where it gets a little crazy. The contextual analysis gets a 9.5 out of 10. Everything in this section got a 10 except for the historical analysis. I think IMDb had this film's genre as fantasy sci-fi. That's not it. I think on the surface it's a coming of age, but I think this film creates its own genre, which is why it gets a 10. It deserves it for being so unique. I think Danny said it was an epic.
For the genre, I would probably say like
It says
epic or drama.
It says coming of age fantasy sci-fi.
Yeah, it's not a fantasy or sci-fi. That's wrong. I could see how it's a coming of age story. I mean, that's what it is on the face of it. Like if you're just approaching it from like the traditional 3-act movie structure, it's like that's what the human story is, so to speak. But considered as a whole, I think it's comparable to an epic or a drama. If you can consider epic to be a genre.
It makes its own genre. I would say it's like a poetic wisdom literature type of film. Right away, when the film started, I noticed a style, and it was Terrence Malick. Even though this is the first film of his I'm seeing, I noticed right away, there's a director style here, and I suck at noticing director styles. This is so distinct and unique. It has a stamp right on the film. It gets a 10 out of 10 for that. The historical context didn't score so high because right now it does feel nostalgic for me, but in the future these iPad kids aren't really going to relate to this film. Instead of contemplating about the mysteries of life, they're going to be watching TikToks about explaining the tree of life in 30 seconds. Imagine if this film was made about kids today. I don't think many of them are outside throwing rocks through windows or playing with guns. I think they're all inside playing video games or swiping on TikTok. That's not a very entertaining movie. Time for the bonuses. +1 for the soundtrack bonus. Like I said, not only does the sound carry this through, but the score. Beautiful. The classical music and the opera takes us through these montages. I'd also like to add that the DVD player, when the movie started, it said, "This film recommends playing this film with high audio." We did not need that for the high opera singing. It blew our eardrums out. +1 for the performance bonus. Like I said, the actors just felt raw. Especially the child actor did a great job. Even though I don't even know if the child actor knew what was going on. He did phenomenal. As well as Brad Pitt and what's her name? And insert name. -1 for the pacing penalty. Because, I mean, it has to get this. Any average viewer would definitely say it deserves a pacing penalty. And as a person who appreciates this film, I have to say pacing penalty as well for its chaotic nature. +1 for the originality bonus. This might be the most original film I've ever seen. Because I don't even know how to describe it. Plus 0.5% for the recommendation bonus. This isn't like a classic movie. I'm like, oh, you've got to watch this classic movie. But this is a movie I'm like, you should probably see this and take it in for yourself. See how you respond to it. Because like my brother Danny said, it will probably say something about the person watching it.
It's like a 15-minute sequence. So most moviegoers who are accustomed to being fed shot after shot after shot of constant stimulation, this thing, that thing, you sort of become anesthetized by all of the action and jokes and quippy dialogue and all that. Whereas this movie forces you to reflect and confront like very existential things and really sit with those and contemplate those as you're viewing the movie. Like you almost feel like a level of discomfort. Like once you're like 10 minutes into that creation sequence, you're like, okay, when's the next like thing gonna happen and this and that.
You might bawl your eyes out watching this film, which I did not, so it does not get the cry bonus. But I read a lot of comments online saying they almost wept through the entire movie, which I'm like, all right, that's too far. That's too far. I have to give this film another -1 for being too incomprehensible, and it shouldn't even be on this grading scale penalty. I literally made a new penalty just for that. Time for the call bonus. I'll now call a random person on my phone and ask if they've heard of the movie. If they have, it gets a +1%. I feel like you might have heard of this movie. Have you heard of the movie The Tree of Life?
I have heard of that movie, yes.
Have you seen it?
I have not. I've seen clips from it, but I've never seen the full thing. I know the director's pretty, out there.
Since you're a film student, you probably should watch it.
Yeah, it is definitely on my list. I've been recommended it a couple times, so.
Definitely an acquired taste.
Yeah, it's pretty well known in the film community, I would say.
I'll be honest. I don't think I've ever heard of this besides my brother Danny, so I kind of cheated a little here. I called somebody who I feel like was most likely to have heard of the movie, but I still wasn't sure because they're a film student. Let me know if I should make this call bonus a maybe +0.5 instead because it wasn't random. So my final score was surprisingly 92.3%, which is higher than I gave Shawshank Redemption. I gave Shawshank a 91.3 and this movie a 92.3. But we have to factor in external opinions. The audience gave this a 60%. The critics gave it an 85%. And IMDb gave it a 68%. This was not on my original 300 list, so we can't factor that in. So it's time for the final calculation. You thought Toy Story was close to being Shawshank? This movie can beat Shawshank. It gets a 87.6269046%. Ranking number 2 as the second best movie of all time out of the movies on this list. It's 0.3% above Toy Story. My brother Danny might not be happy with that. So, in conclusion, I think it's good for us to watch these types of films, like my brother Danny said, that don't just feed us all this quippy, stimulating stuff, shot after shot, for the fun of it. I think it's important that we watch these things and take the time to reflect and look at the beauty of what film can be. Now, if you'll excuse me, I don't want to be late. I'm going to go see the Minecraft movie.
Hi, I'm Steve. Shake it, jockey.
Cinema. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'll have to see the Minecraft movie. Oh my. That is brilliant. It's art.